Hey everyone, this is Zephyr with the Bailey channel, where we teach everyday DMs how to create truly amazing experiences for their players by combining art and technology. Today we're back sitting with Vox as he transitions to using FoundryVTT. In this session, we go through scenes, first with a Battlemap scene for token exploration and navigation, and as a part of that, we also take a look at the power of prefabs using Token Attacher. Then we take a look at some of the imported scenes from the D&D Beyond Adventure Importer. And finally, we take a look at creating Theater of the Mind scenes, both with an actual scene and by using journal entries with their images. If you enjoyed the video, subscribe to keep up with all of our latest content. Now, let's dive right in with Vox.
Okay, so now that we've saw a bunch of different ways to get content, let's jump back into your world again. And now I think we want to just go through the basics of setting up a scene. You've already got some great scenes that you've imported. You've got all of the Bailey stuff. You've got Mad Cartographer. You've got a ton of stuff at your fingertips. But let's just create a new one just so you can go through the mechanics of it. So go to your scene thing and do create a scene. And call it like I don't know, let's call it mountaintop. Let's just call it mountaintop. There we go. Now it opens up immediately the config for the scene. And one thing that we want to drop in here, just because I think we have it at the ready because I sent you a link for it, is we just want to put a tile in as the scene background. There are ways to make scenes without using any tiles as backgrounds at all, but people who are used to Roll20 will be used to this. And so this is just a link to a tile that happens to be a tile for a scene. So if you click Save Changes, and Foundry is going to say, this is going to change the scene dimensions. You want that. So what it did was it looked at that dimensions of that tile and said, okay, I can set the scene dimensions to match this. So go ahead and say yes. And now go ahead and right click it and then activate the scene. Remember, there's a module that will let you just, when you click a scene, it'll go right to it. I think it's DF scene enhancements. There's a couple that will handle that. Okay, so now if you zoom out just a bit, you can see our scene that we're starting with. Okay, so a couple of switchbacks. And we're using a blank scene because we just want to show you how to do some other things on here. So, one thing that you might want to do is, like wall the scene, put lights in it, that kind of thing. What we want for this scene is we want to, let's see, Zephyr, how do we want to do this?
I think what makes sense here is, we're looking at, right now we just have the image. There's a lot you can do with just the bare image and the other aspects of Foundry. For example, we can do all the nice walling, and we can also demonstrate, the functionality of terrain walls versus normal walls, and also directionality of walls, because, someone who's at the bottom of the mountain probably can't see past all the cliffs, whereas someone at the top might be able to see all the way down.
Great.
So I think walling makes sense here.
So if you go to your wall tool, which you're there, and you have these different wall options, we don't want to use just a regular wall though here. I think what we want to do is play around with some of the other fancier walls that you can get with Foundry. So that one is your terrain wall. I say we select that. And you might need to zoom in. I don't know how if you need to at all, but you want to go ahead and start tracing one of those cliffs with one of your terrain walls. And you'll just click and then drag. There you go. And if you hold down Control, it will let you chain those together. Great. Like with any VTT and something that has, like Foundry does with dynamic lighting, the more walls you have in a scene, the more performance it's going to require. Now, Foundry can handle a lot, but in general, you always want to be judicious with your walls. So you're doing a pretty good job here, I would say.
Yeah, I don't think it needs to be absolutely perfect with all of
Exactly. That's great. And now just take one more level down and just wall like one segment, like on one side of that path. Just kind of wall that segment. Show you. Oh, you're still holding control, which it's going to want to chain from that last one. There you go. There's a ton of modules that will change how walling works and being able to create circular walls and things like that really easily. So we're just going to go with core Foundry stuff here.
There's also definitely a bit of a learning curve with the walls and figuring out how you want to really be efficient with them in terms of like how you're placing them and everything. And it just kind of comes with time, finding your own style, what workflow works best for you.
That's right. So now what we want whenever we're creating a scene is we want an actor that we can drag out that's got vision, because we want to see what our players' experience is going to be. So when you're ready, if you know of an actor that you've got that's got vision, we'll assign vision if they don't. Go ahead and drag them out there. Okay, great. Okay, so now let's do this. So right-click your scene up in the top left. There's another way to get to your scene where it says mountaintop. Right-click and do configure. And we want to turn on, go to lighting. And we want to say unrestricted vision range because we're outdoors, right? So vision range should be unrestricted. Go ahead and save changes. And now see how your token can see over the one wall, but it can't see over the next wall below it? That's what terrain walls do. If there's a terrain wall, what'll happen is it will allow vision through the first wall, but it'll block it at the second. You see how that works? So
Yep.
if you drag your token down to the next level, you'll see that you can see both directions, but you can't see past that third wall, that lowest wall. And that's how you can, this is just one of many ways that you can use to really make a map vision work the way that you intended or that the artist originally intended it. And so this is just like really basic level. Now I want you to do one more thing, and that's go back to your wall tool. And I want you to there's a select box. So along the left there at the very top, yeah, that's your select box. Select that and then drag that over that lowest wall on the left, that lowest tier. Try to lasso all those walls.
Another trick is if you hold down Alt when you click on a wall, you'll actually select all of the walls that are touching each other. You can kind of see it.
If you click on that node, yeah, right.
Cool.
So a couple options for you.
Now, try to hover over one of those little nodes and double click it. Since we have all the walls selected, we can actually change all of their parameters just by changing one. And so you see where it says wall direction both? Change that to, let's try left. I can't, it's a little too small for me to see. Is that right?
Yeah, okay, if we zoom in, right. I think it is correct. I really like DF Architect gives, whenever you're hovering over selected walls, it'll tell you what side is right and what side is left before you have to make a guess in the scene. And that's a module I really recommend for this kind of work.
So what you did here, Vox, is you took those walls and you said, I only want them to work in one direction. In the other direction, they'll essentially be invisible to players and in movement and things like that. So now select your player again. Go back to your token layer on the left. There you go. And select your player. And you see how that player can now see past that wall? Because that last wall doesn't work in that direction anymore. So now you can set it up where you do have a height advantage, right? And you can see over down these cliffs. But if you're standing on the other side of them, see how you're on the other side now? Now the fog of war is blocking. So if your players were just coming into this map and you're starting them on the bottom left, they'd have very, very limited visibility into what they were walking into. They'd have to fight their way up the mountain first. But all of the enemies at the top would have the ability to see. So just different ways that you can design these. So feel free to play with those. So yeah, now you can't see him because he's behind the fog of war, but they're all there. Make sense?
Looks good.
Great. So in this scene, you can also put in lighting and sound. I think what we'll try to do is maybe we'll just let's just drop a lamp post. Oh yeah, go ahead and just create a light for right now. Did you see how to create that the first time? Yeah, you just click and then drag out to the radius that you want. And then you can double click the light and change some of the settings. I recommend changing the color there to something like an orange. That's good. And then in the next one under light animation, it's a tab in the middle. Hit that drop down and select torch.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I was playing around with this a little bit in another scene that in my sandbox, but I don't know why I didn't check this out.
Yeah, tons of really, really good stuff. There's such good stuff in there. It almost feels like animation. Like you can really make, and we've showed you this before, like lava and things like that. It's so flexible. And you can even shape lights. There's even walls that you can put around lights that will only block the light itself. So you can make light go in different shapes, like stars and hearts and things like that, not just the circle shape. So go ahead and click update light source. And if you turn the lights down, hit that moon, that'll bring the lights down. You'll be able to see that torch flickering.
So cool.
And of course, you can make the radius of that much larger or smaller and things like that. And it's using tools like Molinet that you can then populate this with tiles. If you want to put like a trebuchet or something like that on here, as long as you have access to those types of things, you can open your file picker and you can pull them out. Let's see. I wonder if there's something that I know of in the file picker, just in my stuff, that you could just pull out really quickly. So go ahead and turn your lights back up so we can see our scene. And then on the left-hand side, just under, it's the 3 blocks stacked on each other. That's all of your tile tools. Oh, sorry, further left. The 3 blocks stacked. There you go. And there's a folder there. Click on that. Now, I want to show you this because this is just core Foundry. I want everyone to know this. You're in the top level folder of your user data folder, right? The other one that says core data, that's everything that comes with Foundry. And there's some cool stuff in there, like specifically icons. But your user data folder is where all your stuff sits in that Foundry folder you set up when you set up your world. There's a folder there called modules. Well, actually, let me show you a couple. There's also one called Molinet. Molinet is where the Molinet module will store all of its stuff. It's also where you can put lots of your own custom things like that. We won't go into that just yet, but we'll go into the modules folder.
I have noticed with this that I've got some things here and it takes a second and it gets very kind of laggy.
Yeah, those might be large files that you want to move somewhere else because Foundry's trying to load those in as you're looking at this. So I'd recommend you move those so they're not in your top folder at some point. Okay, so now we're in modules, and this is where all of the modules that you install, this is where they install their stuff. So anything that you install that's related to BaileyWiki or anybody else, this is where we're going to put all of our things inside of your world. And you can see BaileyWiki maps towns just above your cursor there. Next one down. There you go. Towns. That's the main module. Click on that. And this is where you'll find a bunch of our premium stuff. And inside of, in this is why I recommend Mullen and other things. I mean, we've got 10,000 things to navigate. It's really hard to know where everything is, but click on maps. And I don't know, let's click on, go to Town Square. Actually, you know what? Actually, go back up one level. Go to Magic Shop. It's just a little bit down. It's in alphabetical order. There you go. And set your asset grid size to 150. It's a field just above your cursor there. And then grab that that one on the right. Yep. And just drag that onto your scene. And let it go anywhere you want. There's other versions of the Magic Shop, and this actually comes as a prefab. So, but you're just looking at the tile here. Okay, so now, Vox, you've got this tile, and if you select it, you can rotate it. If you hold down the Control or Shift keys and then rotate your mouse wheel, you can rotate the tile around. So now we've got this this building, and now we could go in and wall it. We could add lighting to kind of pick up on some of these cool areas of the building, that sort of thing. And you would just use the same walling and lighting techniques that you just used, just applied here. Now you might find it difficult at an angle to actually move around that building because you're on a grid. You might want to, yeah. And this isn't like the ideal map for this particular building to go, but this is just to kind of show you how to drop stuff in. And we won't sit through the whole walling process here, but that's essentially how you just drag a tile in using Core Foundry and then start doing things with it.
Yeah, made it super easy.
Yeah. Now, there's also things that you can do with prefabs where you can drag stuff in. So let's look for a prefab. Let's look for like a cart. Let's drag a cart in. So go to your compendium tab and do a search for Bailey Wiki, or just Bailey.
We've been able to go into towns because we've just been looking in file structures, but we don't actually have towns enabled, so we don't have those compendiums.
Yes. Okay, so you want to enable towns. So yeah, go into your modules.
I have done this exact thing an embarrassing amount of times. Like, why is it there? Why is it broken? It's because I didn't enable it. That's why.
So all the Bailey Wiki stuff at the top, you want to just activate those, and they may prompt you for other modules as well. And now go to yep. And now you want to go to your actors compendium. I know that seems weird, but prefabs are powered by a module called Token Attacher. In fact, do we have Token Attacher installed? We should probably validate that. It would be under T. There it is. Great. So Token Attacher is a module that lets you take complicated things that include all kinds of entities like walls and tiles and lights and sounds and attach them to one thing so that then you can take that one thing, it's prefabricated, and use it as many times as you want. So we're going to just look for a prefab here. Oh, sorry, it hasn't moved the Bailey Wiki stuff into actors yet. So go ahead and type Bailey Wiki up above. Oops, EY. And you see how it dumped everything in the default folder? You can actually drag those things out and reassign them to other folders. For now, we won't worry about that. I just want you to go into the Bailey Wiki Maps Towns prefab. Yep, open that up. And then go into that search bar. You can see there's tons of stuff in here.
Oh, yeah.
Go into that search bar and type cart, C-A-R-T. Oh, maybe it's wagon. Sorry, look for wagon. Okay, great.
Like putting in a USB the right side up the first time.
I know, right? Okay, so now down below, you see there's a home that actually comes with a wagon attached to it. And there's all these different wagons that you can drag out. So Go ahead and drag down below. It says Tactical Wagon 01. It just means it's part of a tactical set. It's for dressing up maps so that you have some tactical elements that are interesting. And now you've got a wagon that you can move around. But if you turn on your wall layer over on the left, you can close that compendium. You can see it's got walls already built into it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And that's a really simple prefab. That building that you're looking at above, that's also available as a prefab. If you open that same Towns compendium and did a search for magic shop, for example. Yeah, drag that out. And give it a second because it's going to assemble the entire magic shop for you. So again, and that's a control token that you've got that you're using exactly the right way. If you drag that up onto your scene, you can even see it's actually even sized it correctly. I think the one you dragged out earlier was probably should have been at a different DPI. But now if you put that up there on the top of the hill, for example, and you just examine its wall layers and its lighting, you'll see it's got everything already done.
Yeah, that's awesome. So it's got
It's
the
even got,
doors in there,
it's got sounds. It's even got some interactive elements to it. Those things take a long time to set up if you want to set all those things up, but prefabs make it so you can just set up once and reuse it forever. So those are some core concepts that you're going to need when you go and build a scene, but you'll find out with prefabs you have like trees that have canopies that work that, players can be hiding under. You'll have street lights, you'll have gobs and gobs of, dungeon things that you can snap together that already are walled and stuff like that. And on top of all the scenes that you can just get right out of the box with not only with us, but Mad Cartographer and everybody else. So there's just, I wanted to show you the breadth of like the kind of content that you can play with here.
And so did you design this all within Foundry, or did you design this with that other Dungeon Draft application that you're talking about and bring it into Foundry?
Good question. Yeah, everything you're looking at here was designed in Dungeon Draft. And then it was exported as tiles and then brought into Foundry as a tile, specifically as a WebP tile. Although Foundry supports all different types of tiles, WebP is just the really efficient kind. And then once it was brought into Foundry, we assembled the walls, the lights, the sounds, everything else, and then prefabricated it and then put it into that compendium. And now you can use it anywhere.
Yeah, I can see how the lighting works and the sound.
If you go, I can't hear your sound, but you can probably, as you get close to those things, there's little sound beacons that, sizzle and pop and make, magic sounds.
Yeah.
You can see there's,
I locked that door and you can't hear it, but when I click on that with it being locked, I get the sound of it like trying to open. It's awesome.
That's right. That's a module called Ambient Doors, I think, that does that. And you can see there's a little secret passage where there's this hidden teleporter room in the back. And I think as you enter that room, you'll probably hear a sort of a glowing sound or a magical aura sound as you get closer. Those sound beacons are set up so that they do get louder as you get closer to the beacon. So really cool immersive effects that you can create in Foundry that I really haven't seen its equivalent.
Yeah, and this is going to be fun. And when we get into a little later with automation and stuff, this is kind of what I'm talking about with some of this that we can go into.
And I don't know if you noticed it, but there's no roof over this building. But if you walked out of the building, you dragged your player out to the outside. You might have a wall in the way because that. Notice the roof pops up. So you can actually have battles on top of that roof. That building, there's prefabs that are 3, 4, 10 stories tall. Your players can navigate them, fight outside them, fall down, and maintain battle across what normally would be in like Roll20 would be a lot of different scenes. teleporting here and there. You can have really complicated scenes inside Foundry using, and by the way, we are using some modules here. We're using levels, better roofs, wall height, those 3 modules, which we'll link, and we have tons of tutorials on them. That's what helps you build these scenes and elements that are multi-layered.
Yeah, this is awesome.
Great.
It's going to take some time getting used to all of the different components, but I think the fun part about it is like once something like this is built, I mean, this could be used over and over and over again. You don't really have to worry about every single time you want to create a battle map. You don't have to recreate this from scratch, right? It's just this one component you pull in and then move it.
That's right. So like my workflow is I've got Forgotten Adventures and Tom Kartos tiles that gives me access to like anything that I need as far as a tile goes. I've got prefabs made for a bunch of things just through the Bailey Wiki stuff. And then I've got Molinet that gives me access to all those creators I just created, all of their maps, all my maps, everything else. So I've got just thousands of things at my fingertips, and I didn't really even have to install very much. Just kind of most of it sits in the cloud.
Yeah, that's awesome.
All right. Well, that's the basics on getting the scene set up. What do you think, Zephyr? Did we accomplish the mission?
Yeah, I think that goes over the basics of scenes pretty well. And obviously, some of the layers here can seem a little intimidating if you're like new to Foundry and everything. It can seem like a lot, but we still have a very functional map from just bringing in this background image and doing walls. So you can get going very quickly. These other elements that we add on top of it just really help enhance that experience for your players, and you can make that faster with those prefabs like we talked about.
And Vox, by the way, can you show us one of those scenes that imported with Frostmaiden?
Yeah, so I didn't even need to do some of that, but if, say, for example, I wanted to come in here to place of interest, and let's just grab one that I know works. I believe they all work. We'll just do this scene. And I will drag an actor in. But you notice once I go to that layer, it's already got some doors and stuff.
Brilliant.
And all the walls. I didn't do any of this. This was all done from the importer.
That's fantastic. So I think there's some community work that went into getting these all Foundry ready or VTT ready. But this is great. Just add water. You've got all of the components of Frostmaiden Adventure plus scenes, most of which, if not all of which, have already walled and ready to go. You get some sound effects from Michael Gelfi for some snowy ambiance, and you're kind of ready to rock and roll. We'll get into effects later and how you can have this scene here be snowy, how you can have it just snow outside the building and not inside the building, and other stuff. We'll get into that kind of thing, and then in the next one we'll be doing combat as well as effects, some automation within combat as well. Does that sound good to you guys?
Yeah, that's great.
Sounds great.
All right. Okay, so before we go, I do want to also just do some theater of the mind stuff, just so people can understand how to support that. So I think there's a couple of things that we can do here at a basic level. One is you can create theater of the mind using a scene itself. If you just have an image from the internet, you can make that the background of your scene. I just wanted to show kind of best practices for how to do that. I don't suppose you have a image already available.
I think, there's that Rhyme the Frostmaiden background that Vox already used for his splash page. That's probably a good example right there.
Yeah, that's good.
So real quick, this is a great opportunity to talk about. So if you hit your browse files again real quick, we'll notice that when you went and uploaded with that choose file, it went ahead and added another version of that. So you want to avoid using that upload with the choose file. You want to instead use the select file on something that you've already gotten there. That's a really easy pitfall to find yourself in, where you're accidentally uploading things several different times.
Oh, and look at this. So you see how you can't see what anything looks like? Up above, you have some different options to actually look at thumbnails. It's over to the right. There you go. If you click into those, you get like sort of better and better options for generating thumbnails, all the way to like you can look at them in kind of large format.
So when you said it was creating another one, oh, because
it was just overwriting the one with the same name is technically what it was doing. And these are clearly big files because Foundry is really trying to chug through these. So yeah, I would clean these out.
These are some of the other ones that I was playing with. So that's
totally
good to know.
Yeah, I've done the same. Okay, so now select that Icewind Dale. And click save changes for now, but we're going to go back into here pretty quickly and say yes. And now, yeah, activate that scene.
That left click gets me every time.
Every single time. Now, get it to where you want it to be, where it's kind of filling the screen, maybe, where, it might be the only thing that we can see, right? Yeah, it's pretty good. Now, go back and right-click your scene again, and we're going to go back into the config. And let's do a couple of things. First, let's set the initial view position. It's down below on this tab here. And you just click that little icon. Yep. And that will make this, when you load the screen for the first time, it'll always load kind of filling the screen like this. And then I want you to go to the grid tab. And let's get rid of the grid opacity. So down below, just drag that slider all the way to the left. I believe, yeah, there you go. So now it's gotten rid of the grid. You know what? There's one more thing we'll do. Go ahead and do configure again. There's actually a hidden feature in Mini-Qual that does something really cool here where it'll match your scene background. But for right now, let's just make it black. So if you go to basics, I think it's under basics. And yeah, there you go. That background color. You can drag that all the way down to the bottom left and make it all the way black. I think there was also a color picker you could have used. Now, if you zoom out, you can see that it just makes the edges black.
Oh, excellent.
Kind of makes it better, right? For theater of the mind type stuff. And there's like, we can apply effects to this. Like we could make it so it looks like there's actual mist kind of flowing. We're going to get into that in the next session when we get into effects. But this is kind of like one way to do theater of the mind where you can have it be like an actual scene. There's also, like we have like a landing page, which maybe we'll show you next time, where you can kind of assemble a modular landing page, but that can help with sort of theater of the mind types things. You can have it be, represent like merchants and stuff like that.
There is one other important setting here. If we go into our lighting, we want to make sure that token vision is turned off. That way, if you don't have tokens on here, you can still actually see the scene. There's sometimes you might want to set up your theater mind scene where you do have people have tokens on there, but just this way people can come look at it and they won't get a black screen telling them they have no tokens.
I had a question. One of the things that we've done with like Theater of the Mind and Roll20 is that we have our little icons of our players for who have cameras on. Is there an add-on or a module that we could use to kind of do that same thing so that like our players can see one another as they're kind of going through this theater of mind in this environment?
I know, so Foundry does support actually having video and audio within Foundry. It's not as common of a setup, but it does support that, so we can definitely get into that in the future. I'm not sure if there is a module that hooks into that so that you can have like tiles showing different players' cameras, but I'll look into that. It's interesting.
So the same image that you used, the same path that you used to load that image, you can actually put that also in a journal entry, and you can just share a journal entry with people. So have you tried that before yet? Have you seen what that looks like?
No, I haven't. I've messed with the journal entry items to kind of look through them and everything, but I haven't noticed where I could add stuff.
Yeah, let's try it. So I don't know which journal entry might have something that we're looking for. We could browse for it. Like Welcome to the Far North seems like that would have one. Oh, handouts. Yeah. Yeah. Go to image. See at the top, it says image. Oh, look, here you go. Show to players. Is that Core Foundry?
I don't know because it wasn't here until I did the importer. So
go to the image tab up above in the screen that you're looking at and just see if there's an image. So there's no image assigned to this here. This would be one place that you can show something to players. You see it says show to players at the top of that. That's where you can share either the contents of the journal entry, or if you went to the image tab, you could just share the contents of the image if there was an embedded image in it. But now what's happening, you can't see this, but your players are seeing all of these things open up for them. Like in there, as they're looking at their Foundry instance, it'll open up these components that you're choosing to show to them. That's another way to do theater of the mind. It's just like using handouts.
Oh, yeah.
But you might find, and that's certainly convenient, especially when you've got a handout or a journal you're looking at, but you might find also you want to have some of those scenes set up like we did. All right. So good enough for now?
Yeah, this is a lot of like how we've always done it, and Roll20 was typically with handouts. And this makes it really easy to jump back and forth, but I do like having kind of like the landing page.
Yeah.
That maybe we can do some other things with.
Yeah, exactly. You really get the lighting and the ambiance and other stuff to, you can have weather roll through here. It's really fantastic. Well, Vox, thanks again for letting us, shotgun next to you on this adventure. And everyone else, let us know in the comments what you'd like us to cover, what we didn't cover here. As you can see, we're doing Q&A as we go through this. So, give us stuff to make sure that we clarify for the community. And both of you, Zephyr and Vox, thanks for, another good episode.
Yeah. Thanks for including me. Got a lot of things to be playing with. So
I love it.
Got the stuff coming in now. So it's time to start building the story.
Yeah,
that's right.
It's a lot of fun, and now you're really cooking with gas. So
awesome. All right, guys. We'll see you guys in the next episode.
Yep. See you next time.
All right. Bye-bye.